No, before you start, let me just, Rufai, please. I'm not here to be cross-examined, okay? I'm not here to be, I don't accept what you want to do. I'm not going to answer any question that leads to, I'm not in a court. If
No,
you're
I'm not
asking
cross-examining
questions
you.
out
We're
of what has
exchanging
been said,
ideas,
yes,
sir.
but don't cross-examine me, please. I won't accept that. Just let me
No,
let you know.
I'm not cross-examining, and I'm shocked that you're saying this, sir. I think we've enjoyed and we've shared a very rich relationship for you to have said that to me on air, sir. I'm not cross-examining you. I'm here just to ask a question and put clarity.
Cross-examination, I will not answer. All right, go on.
Okay.
If you ask me any questions that offend me, I won't answer.
Okay, so if you think it's cross-examination, I'll go ahead and do my job.
And let the opposition stop crying. They are absolutely not doing their job. So APC is stealing their thunder. NNPC go and get registered on the stock exchange and become like any other Nigerian oil company. Period. NNPC cannot be operator and regulator at the same time.
Olisa Agbakoba, senior advocate of Nigeria. I used to know him as a son or as a lawyer, but he's now more economic than economist. You know, he really dazzled into Nigerian economics, and him and Rufai really had it hot. And I really like Rufai's courage. He stood his ground, made his point, and Agbakoba has to now say, "Oh, this is point you are making. Wow, is really valid." You know, he is into economics, and he said where he's really vast is in economic law, which is more of a developmental law. He's saying that Nigeria is more into public sector borrowing requirements, which is PSBR. That he wants us to be in a place where is a public sector funding requirement, which is PSFR. He spoke a lot. He spoke a lot. You need to watch this interview. It's really informative. It's really enlightening. It's even also entertaining because him and Rufai really had it hot. So, and he went ahead to even say that the opposition are not even impressing him. That the opposition are not even impressing Nigeria. They are always on the defensive, playing victim. And he said the opposition should take the fight. Though he acknowledged that the government is not really making ways for to be easy for the opposition, but they should also make ways for them when the available is not, when the desirable is not available, the available becomes the desirable. The opposition should break off their shackles, and instead of blaming the government, they should do something. You know, so he's saying that there should be a robust intellectual argument, debate, and function. You know, he acknowledged also that the funding that is gotten is not being used adequately, but nonetheless, let the opposition keep the government at their toe. You need to watch this interview. Watch it to the end. It's really, really informative. I really learned a lot from it. And I must commend Rufai. He stood on his ground, never allowed himself to be intellectually intimidated. And he made his point. And Abakoba have to condescend and say, wow, I agree with you. Watch this. We'll see you at the end. If you've not subscribed to this channel, man, subscribe. You're missing a lot. See you on the other side.
Trillion from tax. But I need to see both the Nigerian president, the attorney general, Zach, the minister for finance, pull together all of the potential sources of revenue. I'll just give you one. I wrote something about a month ago that property titling in Nigeria, that is the certificate of occupancies that you hold, 95% of Nigerian properties have no title. That means they're debt capital. Now, if we had to do a simple thing as titling properties, we'd be looking at 1.4 quadrillion over the next 10 years. If you break that down into yearly income, that's about 140 trillion. So when we do all of this, we are looking at close to 500 trillion. Remember, I suggested to you, gentlemen, a while ago, and you scoffed at it, that we could raise 500 trillion naira on a yearly basis if we plugged all the loopholes, modified our laws. What did Zach do? All he did was to modify the 90-30 base tax laws, and look what's happening today. So I have nothing against the PIA except the part that gives NNPC control over 70% of our oil resources. NNPC takes about 70% of the revenue we generate from oil. That's terrible. No, before you start, let me just, Rufai, please, I'm not here to be cross-examined, okay? I'm not here to be, I don't accept what you want to do. I'm not going to answer any question that leads to, I'm not in a court. If you're asking questions out of what has been said, yes, but don't cross-examine me, please. I won't accept that. Just let me let you know.
I'm not cross-examining, and I'm shocked that you're saying this. I think we've enjoyed and we've shared a very rich relationship for you to have said that to me on air, sir. I'm not cross-examining you. I'm here just to ask a question and put clarity.
Cross-examination, I will not answer. All right, go on. Okay. If you ask me any questions that offend me, I won't answer.
Okay, so if you think it's cross-examination, I'll go ahead and do my job. Number one, sir, you talked about debt capital. Yes, I get your argument about debt capital. In fact, before you made the argument, people like Andrew Nevin have made the argument as regards debt capital, which is very valid, that we can unlock. But the part of the argument that we should also make is the government debt capital, which is about over 70 trillion, that they can wake up. Yeah. There are many moribund buildings here and there. Yeah. And take, for instance, look at the former, what's it called now? The former secretariat in Ikoyi here. God knows the dispute on that building, but it's just been there. And there are many of that sitting around. Secondly, for those that make arguments for the government and say, okay, things are weakening and all of that, the question I would also like to throw forward is, even when they get this revenue, they don't still put it to the good use of the people. And that's what I'm saying I'm going to raise. Look at the last budget cycle. It was shambles. With all they said they got as revenue, they couldn't fund healthcare. We're seeing 36 million when they were capex of us something billion. So when you even make the money in the first place, the government does not even put it to use in the end. And that's the mismatch I'm trying to talk about here.
I've lost you.
No, that's the mismatch I'm talking about, and that's what I want you to react to. Okay. On one part, you are making a strong point for the government, but when they even get the revenue, there's no revenue accountability. So it's not just making the revenue, but it's the revenue accountability. I mean, how would you explain that President Tinubu said last year, we've met our revenue targets, and in the end, you are seeing that they couldn't even fund the budget. They are moving into the next budget cycle. So what's the essence of making the revenue if we can use it for the people? That's the argument I'm trying to make.
Well, that's why I say it's a cross-examination, but I take your point. It's a cross-examination which you should be asking the president. I agree entirely with you that it's not enough to talk about raising revenue or capital formation, and then we say, where does it go? That's the key point, and I agree entirely that. But the first point, Rufai, and I still recognize you as my dear good friend, is we need to raise the revenue. That's the first thing. We need to stop PSBR. Public sector borrowing requirement is killing us. We need to go to PSFR, public sector funding requirements. So let's look for how to raise funds. I gave President Tinubu 10 ideas about how to look for money. It's not rocket science. That's the problem. It's not rocket science. The link between law and economics is called development law. And I'm proud to say I'm Nigeria's leading development law specialist. So when I see how fragile our economy is, in spite of plenty, it troubles me. But to your point, it's what we need to do to strengthen the anti-corruption agencies, EFCC, ICPC, the police, and all relevant agencies that deal with government revenue. Because the truth is, in spite of all the successes that Zach has achieved in tax, and the new thing the president has achieved with oil sovereignty, people are not feeling it. That's the truth. It's not on the ground. It's not enough for the Bureau of Statistics to release numbers in Abuja. I ask my driver every day, how do you feel? And he said, I don't feel good. That's the key point. So the point you're making, Rufai, which is absolutely brilliant, is, all right, after we raise all this, does it hit the people? Does it touch them? So here's where I would, hope that our government, particularly as we're going to, 2027, and let the opposition stop crying. They are absolutely not doing their job. So APC is stealing their thunder. What we want to see next year is a campaign around poverty questions. Are the Nigerians getting a good deal? I don't think so. So where are the opposition people that can match President Tinubu, because I want to see a very good fight next year over how Nigerians feel. But that's not to say that we shouldn't raise the funds. I would like to see us in a position to raise 500 trillion naira. Then the next thing will be, how do we allocate these resources to human development of Nigerians? So I entirely agree with your point about the need to have, guardrails around the issue of, accountability and transparency. Right now, we have a situation where our oil is not benefiting us. That's number one. We also have a legal framework where under Section 44(3) of the Constitution, the government of Nigeria or of the Federation are owners or trustees on behalf of Nigerians of the oil resources. So let's deal with that question first. Are we getting a due fair share of the resources from our oil revenue? We are not. So let's claw that back first. Let's bring it back. That is what Executive Order 9 does. Having done that, we go to the second constitutional debate of what type of federation are we looking at? That's an issue that has been raised by Ken Saro-Wiwa all these years. Fiscal federalism. How do we allocate our resources? Should oil be something that will be outside of the exclusive legislative list and you put it in the concurrent or state list? That's a different argument, completely different argument. That's a constitutional argument. My argument today is a fiscal argument. We need money. If we need money, we've got to look at every avenue that we can draw in money. So right now, we have a centralized, centripetal federal government, which is really not a federation. When we first bring the money back into the federal purse, we can then have the conversation, and I hope President Tinubu will lead it, because in his manifesto, he did mention the need to have a restructured Nigeria. So I agree with you, Dr. Abati, that part of the problem really is, the bedrock of the problem is really the issue of the Petroleum Act of 1969. But that's the second step. The first step is let's bring our money back. Let me just quickly tell you that in the spectrum of fiscal revenue that the government can derive from crude oil, there are 34 value chains. We don't control a single one. I want to see the president enact Executive Order 10 to make shipping, banking, legal, and insurance. The revenues derived by the oil companies from this is over 100 trillion. No Nigerian carries any crude. We don't have a single Nigerian vessel owned by a Nigerian carrying our crude. It's all carried by Shell. Shell uses the bunga to offload all our oil into international waters. That's another area. So once we've brought our money in, let's lock it in first, and then we'll talk about how to distribute. So I agree with you. If you ask me personally, the federal government is too strong. We need to break it up. We need to transfer the 68 items of power in the exclusive list. We need to take some and give the states. And then from the states, we need to also give some to the local government. So you have three important and effective governments of Nigeria delivering something good to Nigerian people. So that's the way I see it.